before we could embark on our journey, we needed to be educated. The 5-week intensive seminar in Tanzania was preceded by a 3-day pre-departure orientation at the American Institute of Resource and Human Development office in Tucker, Georgia, where the selected participants received intensive lectures on history, culture, and Kiswahili language. Invited African scholars and Americans who specialize on African studies provided lectures to the participants. Local Tanzanian citizens provided a traditional Tanzanian meal and Kiswahili language lesson. Professor Fredeline Ananobi stated precisely the purpose and objective of this program. Participants spent time breaking down the book, The Challenge of African Development.
The primary purpose of the 2018 Fulbright Airhd Group Study Abroad to Tanzania is to develop this group of 15 teachers as master teachers with both academic training and field experience in modern Africa. In order to accomplish this goal, the overall components includes lecture discussion format, curriculum development format, visit to historical and cultural centers in Tanzania, visit to primary and secondary schools. To engage teachers with area studies, Tanzania professors were selected in the area of competencies and made presentations to our GPA participants. The lectures were structured as lecture discussion formats to engage interaction that allowed teachers to ask questions. At the end of the project, GPA teachers were very satisfied with the lectures presented by Tanzanian professors. Also, visits to historical and cultural sites enabled the participant to understand the past and present history of Africa. All of these were included in curriculum development teachers will produce within Tanzania and when they leave to their respective areas. For the meantime, the teachers meet in groups and individually to work on their curriculum areas, which will be eventually made available to their respective school districts as well as to the state and national level.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Abdul Salam, and I am about to embark on a wonderful trip to Tanzania. I'm excited for the opportunity to learn about another group of people's culture. I would say the one thing that I hope to gain are cross-cultural exchange. I would love to be able to share with them what I do as well as learn theirs. I look for inquiries that show how we are actually a lot more alike than we may realize. And I'm really excited to have an opportunity to be somewhere with a group of other focused individuals and to learn from them and to create something really great.
I'm most excited to travel to Tanzania. I've never been there before, and I'm excited to see what East Africa is like. I feel like a lot of intelligence is placed on West Africa, but there's not a lot of information out there about East Africa. Or shall I say, a lot of my friends haven't gone to East Africa, so I don't really know what it's like. Nobody can tell me what it's like, so I'm excited to see it for myself. I'm really excited to go to Zanzibar and to see the beauty that is the island of Zanzibar and all the spices. What do I hope to gain? I hope to gain more resources to teach my children about their legacy, about their culture, and just to really be informed myself. I feel like we do live in an age of technology in our society, but technology doesn't always equate to knowledge or wisdom, so I'm looking forward to gaining more knowledge and wisdom on East Africa.
As a teacher of French, I'm always trying to teach my students about the greater world. Previously, I went to Senegal where I studied Wolof and was able to speak some French along the way and learn some Wolof. But now I'm going to East Africa. While this isn't a French-speaking part of the world, where we're going is English-speaking, and they speak Swahili as their first language. I still hope to learn something about Swahili culture and the Kiswahili language. So when I go back to the States, when I talk about Africa, I can talk about the Francophone parts of Africa, and now I can add some of East Africa.
I want knowledge and I want insight to the children that I teach and the children that come over, and I want authority that people will believe that I know what I'm talking about and not just making it up, because I was able to go and be active and be a part of it and see for myself so that I can best take care of these children when they come to me. It's all brand new. I learned so much that was new, so much new information during the pre-departure orientation that I can't imagine how much I'm going to learn over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm not really sure, but I'll find out. No.
Okay, I'm most excited to bring back everything that I learned to my students. I'm really excited to see what I can apply in the classroom, what I can gain from the educators that we're going to meet and bring back to my students. I think I have a lot to gain personally. I feel like this trip will force me into spaces or push me into spaces where I don't typically go. It'll push me out of my comfort zone, and from that I can only grow. So I think that's what I have the most to gain, as well as professionally, just having that in my bag now. Having this trip in my bag is going to be great.
I hope to gain a better appreciation of the Tanzanian culture and Africa in general, and to embrace and to share that with my colleagues, my students, the community in America.
I expect to fully engage in East African culture and learn everything I can about it through immersion, right? I also expect to connect with some people I know over there and have some real life Tanzanian experiences. I also expect to make some connections so I can have some long-term relationships there. So.
I'm hoping to learn. I'm really looking forward to the lectures and to learn about the culture and the language and to be able to use that take back to my classroom.
Well, I'm very excited to be a part of this trip this time, 2019, because I would like to go into Tanzania and perhaps see the way that the country has been progressing in their development, and maybe find out what are some of the major things they incorporated to allow their country to develop as quickly as it has developed. I'm also excited because I always wanted to go to Africa, and this is my first opportunity to leave America and go to the continent.
I am very excited about working with a group of teachers from across the United States, teachers that represent different school districts, working with them with lesson planning, working with them, watching their transition from knowing very little about Africa to becoming masters of their content. I'm excited about watching the teachers grow and work together in groups to create curriculum, to create lesson plans, to create activities that can be used in classrooms all across the United States, and helping to dispel the myths and stereotypes, the negative stereotypes about Africa. I hope to learn more about Africa myself. Africa is a hot topic right now, socially, culturally, politically, geographically, economically. There's a lot going on about Africa. I consider Africa as like the last frontier, and whatever I gain, I know that teachers will benefit and also students will benefit. So I'm excited about what there is to learn. I'm excited to learn more about the Maasai people. I'm excited to learn more about the history of Zanzibar. I'm excited to see more of Arusha and to be able to work with teachers to put that in a way that students can benefit from. So that's what I'm excited about.
Gina Laki, Professor Aninobi, Gina Landuni, Cass, Vietnamese, live in America. Second grade to second grade.
In Tanzania, we were under the Britons. First of all, we were under the Germans. The Germans, following their policy, they did not want people to learn German language. They wanted themselves to learn indigenous languages and to let indigenous people learn their language at that level. Because learning German, they were saying, is a high, high level, and they thought we are down there, we cannot even learn German. That was the German policy.
Here in Tanzania, grandmother is Bibi, right? Kenyans, Nyanya. Okay, so how do they call Bibi? What is Bibi?
Grandmother.
In Kenya, Bibi is a wife. Wife.
Mke is Mke, because Mke is
Yeah,
wife.
wife is Mke.
Okay.
Down, 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 little town Bagamoyo, down, little town Bagamoyo.
So we're going here for a tour, and I assure you people will have some time to just kind of roam around on their own. But as for now, this is our first stop on our tour.
Historia ina nguvu mwayego, ingeja mito mikubwa na bahari zenye nguvu haziwezi kuifuta historia.
This town was dominated by local people under the chief known as Hazimwene, and their main activities was building plantation and the fishing and the small business. We call it barter system, or changing goods to goods in this town. But around 18th century, this Bagamoyo, or this town, was interfered by different people from Oman. This was Arabs people. They came in this town for the main reason to find area for investment and other activities. They started to construct different buildings in this town. And this was the first buildings in Bagamoyo around 1860. They constructed ground floor and the first floor. And the people who construct these buildings, known as Abdara Suleiman Mangubi.
Down, 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 down.
Local people,
So bitter.
they used to treat more than 40 diseases. That's
Yeah.
why in Swahili name,
You gotta eat it, boil it.
this is in Mwarobaini.
The African leaders later they become famous just because of the slave trade. Because sometimes the slave masters is Arabic, he just reaching the country of the one of African leaders just in the mainland. It was very easy to get a slave because he just go to ministrate and tell him that I want maybe 100 slave here. So the African leader, he'll call all of his people and tell the Arabic, just choose the slave that we want here. Then after choose, that leader will command his people to stay quiet in order to let the Arabic change their language. So that's why those African leaders become very famous.
Down, down, down.
This is the historical law. From 1860 until today we have this kind of law. But there are so many decorations, but each decoration has a meaning. But in this law we have Indian style and Arabic style. But if you remember, I didn't talk about Indian people. Arabs, German, even British. But now we have an Indian style. So you can ask yourself, why Indian people decided to put their sign?
Did you guys want to go upstairs? Are you guys okay?
Well, we need to finish.
Everybody can own their house, everybody can marry, everything is equal. So that's what they try.
Zanzibar united with the Tanganyika 1964 to form Tanzania.
Hi, I'm excited because we've arrived to Zanzibar finally after a 2-hour trip on the ferry. People are feeling a little anxious because there's so much to see in Zanzibar, and there's so much to see in Zanzibar. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about all the things that we'll do. This includes visiting the Spice Islands, learning about the history of the slave dungeons, also visiting Bambella Secondary School, which is a Muslim girls' high school. I'm very excited about the teacher-to-teacher relationships that will be formed as a result of our 2-day visit there. And last but not least, I'm excited that our teachers will have an opportunity to learn more about Zanzibar as a part of Tanzania. So I'm excited and I'm glad to be here.
You call Zanzibar, but in Swahili you should finish with the E at the end, Zanzibari. Because for Americans or for Mzungu people they say Zanzibar, but for Swahili you should finish with the R, Zanzibari. You can see that this name Zanzibar is so famous in Africa. Zanzibar used to be a Zench Empire. Zench Empire, that was the empire from 17th century to 19th century, and it was under the Sultan. The Sultan was the man who ruled Zanzibar and Oman at the same time. But you have to go back further behind why Persians came in Zanzibar. So shortly you should know that the Persians came only 2 centuries after Islam.
It is very peaceful. It's a mixture of ancient things and modern things. The water is so blue.
So today what we're going to do is just familiarize, as I said, we're familiarizing ourselves so that when you start walking, you have an idea, you have some landmarks, you have a frame of reference for how to get back home. This particular part is called Stone Town. Once you start moving into the long paths, everything is going to start looking the same. So if you know you're sitting at the coffee shop next to the floating restaurant, your hotel is going to be, your hostel, will be in this direction. Okay?
Miss Stacy Hill from the Philadelphia Public School System.
Differences between Zanzibar and Dar es Salaam. Even in coming in and out of the country by ferry, they move a little bit quicker, a little bit more organized, they're more proficient in English. They have more of a adaptability to foreigners and they're used to us. Their disposition is a little bit different on how they interact with us. So I'm just looking forward to having a different experience and just kind of comparing the two and figuring out why they're different and how they're different and what I feel in their own.
Really wonderful day to day. Just, walking along in the farms and looking at the different spices that grow that I use quite a bit in my own home. I purchased some spices and I purchased some other things. I really appreciate or I really want to give back to local business. I notice that when I'm in Zanzibar, oftentimes I see a lot of products that are not necessarily made here. So I noticed that the products that I saw when we were on the spice tour were made by the women there, and so I thought it was really important to support the local business, and I had a wonderful time.
It was extraordinary. We went to the spice farm and we went to a slave dungeon, and the spice farm was awesome because all of the spices that I use in my kitchen, I was now able to see how they look in plant form and where they grow in Tanzania. And the slave dungeons were a little different for me because it's very emotional to go into those places, so I didn't go down underneath in the ground to see the dungeon. I just kind of looked from up top, and also there was a path that we took to the water where slaves were actually taken off the island here in Zanzibar. So that was a very touching moment for me, and my only sentiments with that is that it would never ever happen again. Who passed through these waters and these rocks and this beach and this site, and who lost their lives in the passing and who lost their families in this passing. So may God bless them. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Welcome to Bembela Girls Secondary School. I am Zainab Mugunda, the headmistress of this school. So you're welcome. I know that your teachers like me and like Mr. Abdul, so you're welcome. So this is our school. It's a girls' school. The school was initiated in 1924, so it's an old school.
What is an African American person?
African American are the people who have the relationship in Africa. For example, on the just ago, they live in Czechoslovakia. There is a reason who lead them.
That's literal. Clap for her. Okay. So an African American is a person who is descended from African people, but has been in America for generations, right? So, and we also call them black people or black Americans. So the black people or black Americans or African Americans that are in America, their ancestors were brought from Africa through slavery. They're familiar with that?
Yeah,
right.
you are correct.
So that is who we are, African Americans.
Atom is the smallest indivisible particle. Is it correct or not? She said that it is incorrect. Okay? Why it is incorrect? Have you listened to her? Yes. She said that this is not correct, even though it is an idea of Dalton's, but said that it is not correct.
So we just spent the morning with teachers at the secondary school in Zanzibar.
and it was a really meaningful experience to go into teachers' classrooms and sit with students. I walked into the classroom, the students stood up, I said good morning, I asked them to sit down, and then I moved quickly to the back of the classroom, which was really hard, but in the back I worked with a group of 4 girls, 6 girls, and we worked on their math skills, so it was really, really meaningful to me to have the chance to work with students and see how they understand the information, how they take notes, how they share notes, how they share resources. And then we had a warm reception by the teachers. They offered us food that the students prepared. So it was a really meaningful day to see how other people do school.
So one of the exciting components about the school visits is teachers will not only have an opportunity to share information with their Tanzanian counterparts, the Tanzanian co-teachers, but teachers will also have an opportunity to engage students directly in the classroom. This is always a fun time because Tanzanian students get to ask our teacher questions, and our teachers love this part of just sharing information about who they are.
I graduated from Howard University, which is the #1 black college in the country. Maybe people might not think that, but Howard is a school where, an international school where you got people from East Africa, West Africa, South Africa. Bishop Desmond Tutu's daughter was in school when I was at school.
These site visits to schools provide an opportunity for local teachers to review and critique lesson plans. These interactions facilitate cooperation and promote closer communication between the American educators and their Tanzanian counterparts, which will lead to mutual exchange of instructional materials, sharing of information, and teaching ideas in the future.
This is the next.
This one's the first one. We call it the object.
Yes.
Your lesson.
Your standard.
This one.
Yes, this is the one that nobody saw. People saw these. On behalf of the group, on behalf of the American Institute for Human Resource and Development, and behalf of the Fulbright group that we represent, we'd like to present you with a small token of our appreciation. Clearly, the students that you have here are able to do things at this school that we cannot do in the United States, where we talk about how we get more girls involved in science and the STEM fields, and you're doing it here, and they're learning and they're flourishing, and it takes good leadership. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
We want to say thank you to the staff, the faculty, to the headmistress, to Mr. Abdul at Bella High School.
We say thank you very much. We don't have a word to say rather than thank you. Because you don't know what kind of word can value according to what you see and what you decided to help us. So we really appreciate, and may God bless you all to think about us, to think about your school. So we say thank you very much, and you are warmly welcome.
So from here they have all this here and we have 1 hour.
Also here, we have another program. We are going to see how we make our natural fire. Also, these are material which we are going to make a natural fire. This is Narakwai. This is a Christmas tree, and this one is Narakwai in Maasai. So we are going to press it together, and then we get fire. This one we used to have when we are going with our kettle, because we used to go with our kettle from one place to another. So we go from here up to Bound of Kenya or to Blue Mountain. When there is an emergency, like a cow has died the way, we just make our own fire and then we eat a barbecue. Yeah. So you are welcome. See more by action how we are going to make fire. Okay. Come this way.
What do you want to take it over here? Yeah.
Here, baby, keep lighter. Right. Woo! Jahida, look.
Yo.
Asante.
Cultural center that's in Arusha is a really, really impressive display of artwork from all over Africa. I was really very moved by the Cultural Heritage Center.
80% of the money goes back to the community, to the artist. 20% comes to the gallery. Out of the 20%, we pay for the electricity curators, and the rest of the money goes towards the Albino Society, the Street Children, the Wheelchair Foundation. A few minutes before he left the place, the berries were burnt, and aroma was all over, scattered. And some other priests came from the house and asked what happened outside here. There's wonderful aroma and so forth, which will soon start to get from there after the heat. And they were told about the berries in the fire. They went trying to get them, stopping them to burn, and it didn't because they were too hot. They ran get a container of cold water, put them in, and they actually stopped burning. but they produce some brown color in the water, those burning berries. During the searching lesson, eventually they grab the seed to test what this brown color produced by berries in the water, tasty and so on, to find the best way of using that bushy berry. Eventually, by trying that brown color, the caffeine caught them. Bang, bang, it pays up. The heartbeats start to go up higher and so on, and slowly they find a better way to make a first cup of coffee on earth, the Arabians, in that way. That's why the coffee is called their name.
Here is class 7, class 4, class kindergarten. Yeah?
I have my friends here. We are all Mwalimu. You want to introduce yourself? Mwalimu. If you're happy and you know Papa has. If you're happy and you know Papa has. If you're happy and you know and you really want to show. If you're happy and you know Papa has.
Tanzania are a very, very loving country. You know, the people are very welcoming. You know, me being Kenyan, we have, although we're neighbors, we have a stark difference in the way people perceive us. You know what I'm saying? We're not very different in our culture, but it's the way we're perceived. Kenyans are perceived as very aggressive people. Tanzanians are perceived as very laid back, calm, you know, type of people. And they're very welcoming, you know, as opposed to Kenyans. You know, if you met a Kenyan for the first time, you would feel like they was being standoffish. You know what I mean? As opposed to a Tanzanian, they would gladly say hi to you. You know, want to know your name. You know, want to know where you come from. Kenyans don't have time for that. They have time to chase money.
All right.
You know, so that's the only difference I see. There's a lot of ethnic tribes in Tanzania, just like in Kenya. And also Tanzania is very vast as a country. It's a very big country. Now, in the part of welcoming people, I think, in my opinion, I've seen more foreigners in Tanzania than I have seen in Kenya. I could be wrong statistic-wise, but, you know, from my own observation, that's what I've seen. And I could say that has something to do with the way Tanzanians are warm towards people.
So the biggest things you would say is that to kind of dispel the belief that there's just this straight African culture in every single country, you're kind of saying that
that's the biggest lie ever. Yeah, that's the biggest lie ever, and the biggest misconception, because you know, going back to when I went to college in the U.S., one of my next door roommates came and asked me if I had bought my clothes at the airport. It was a shock, but I can't blame her, because that's all she knows. She doesn't know that in Africa there's big cities, there's people who have great lives, there's people who have extremely bad lives, you know. So it's just a matter of getting on the ground and seeing it for yourself and studying it and understanding the way the diverse cultures come together and live together as one people. Like, we all speak Swahili, but we have a little different ethnic backgrounds that we come from, you know what I'm saying? So,
got you.
Yeah.
All right, Aggie, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was nice talking to you, Adrian.
Thank you.
You're welcome.